you how queues behave in an exclusive and a non-exclusive mode in Solace PubSub Plus Broker. Okay, so let's begin. So first, let's create a queue. We'll call it Q1, and you'll see that you can pick the access type here, whether you would like it to be an exclusive queue or a non-exclusive queue. So we'll start with an exclusive queue, which is basically configuring it in an active standby configuration, so that you have one active consumer, but then any other consumers that are binding to the same queue, they'll be on a standby mode. They will not receive any messages. As soon as the primary consumer goes down, the second consumer will then pick up activity. If the second consumer goes down, then the third consumer will pick up activity, and you get the point. Okay, so let's create an exclusive queue. You can see that the access type is exclusive. We'll give it a subscription. Let's use my favorite example, equities US. We'll use a wildcard here. Okay, great. So we will use SDK command line tool for the simulation, and clear this up. So we'll have 3 consumers and 1 publisher. So let's start. Here's the first consumer. It's going to be subscribing to our Q1 that we just created, and here's the connection details. Okay, so there are no messages in the queue, so it's not receiving any messages. Great. We'll do the same thing here. Subscribe to Q1. Great. And then 1 more consumer. Now if we go back to our screen to Q1 consumers, we can see that there are 3 consumers, and you can see the first one has all this information about messages, and the other 2 are kind of just sitting there. Okay, so still no messages in the queue because we don't have any publisher publishing any messages. So if we go back and start a publisher, then I'm going to use SDK parf again. I'm going to be publishing to the topic equities US NYSE/Apple. It'll be persistent messages. I'm going to publish a bunch of them at the rate of 10 messages per second, and each message will be 100 bytes long. Okay, great. So let's publish these. Now you can see, because we have an exclusive queue, even though there are 3 consumers binding to it, only the first one that was connected is getting the messages, right? The other 2 are in the standby mode. If we were to quit this application, this consumer, if we were to kill it, as soon as I did that, the second consumer picked up. You can see it started getting these messages. Now we still have the third consumer still sitting there in a standby manner. If we were to kill this consumer, the third one then finally picks up. So this is the classic active standby mode. This happens when your queue is configured in an exclusive manner. So only one exclusive consumer is able to receive messages at any given time. Okay, perfect. Now let's try the non-exclusive mode. I'm going to kill the consumer here as well. So kill all 3, kill the publisher. Just going to drain the queue. Okay, perfect. Clear everything up. Now I'm going to delete this, or let's just edit it, make it a non-exclusive queue this time. Yep. Okay, so now we can see that it's a non-exclusive queue. Everything else is the same. We have the same topic subscription, so nothing else has changed. Just the access type of the queue has changed. Great. So with the non-exclusive type, we have a load balancing scenario. So we'll still have a publisher publishing messages to a topic, which are mapped to this queue, so that this queue will get messages queued in this queue. And then our 3 consumers that we have, they will get messages in a round robin fashion. So all 3 of them will be receiving messages, but at any message that is queued in a queue will only go to one unique consumer. Now, for example, if I publish 6 messages, the first message goes to consumer 1, second goes to consumer 2, third goes to consumer 3, fourth message then goes back to consumer 1, fifth message goes to consumer 2, and then the sixth message goes to consumer 3. So this is the round robin fashion that I was talking about. So let's test it out. So same scenario, we will start our 3 consumers that are going to be binding to the same queue, just like before. Okay, so if we confirm, go to Q1 and consumers, we can see all 3 consumers are binding, and this time we can see that there are stats available for all 3 consumers. If you remember, when our Q1 was in an exclusive mode, we only saw these stats for the first consumer. Now we're seeing them for all 3 consumers because we're in the non-exclusive queue access type. Okay, great. You can see 3 consumers over here. And now if I start publishing messages, we'll see that all 3 consumers are receiving them. Recall that previously when the access type was set to exclusive, only 1 active consumer was getting the messages and the other 2 consumers were in a standby mode. In this case, we have 3 consumers and all 3 of them are getting messages, different messages, but in messages in a round robin fashion. So if I were to kill one of these, so let's kill the first one. The other 2 consumers will pick up the additional load and they'll still continue draining the queue. So they're still getting the messages. Maybe something went wrong with our first application, first consumer. So we'll go do some debugging and then we'll figure it out what's wrong with it. We'll spin it up again and it will bind to the queue again and it will start getting its messages from the queue. So we have 3 consumers back again. Now maybe there's a surge in the number of messages that this queue is receiving, and we would like to add more instances to help these 3 consumers out. So let's just add 1 more consumer. So right over here, this is our 4th consumer. Okay, and here's we're going to spin another instance of it. Again, we're binding to the same queue, Q1. And as soon as we do that, it will also start receiving messages in a round robin fashion. If we go back to our queue over here, just refresh it, you can see messages are going through it over here. And if we click on it and go to consumers, you can see that now we have 4 consumers. Okay, perfect. So that's it. This shows you how both exclusive and non-exclusive queues work. Exclusive queues are basically for active standby configuration, and non-exclusive queues follow load balancing. All right, thanks.